I am so glad you convinced me that the family car should be the Defender 110. It is so beautiful inside, it's so comfortable, and it just feels indestructible.
Yes, it really is. I've been waiting a long time for the new model to come out. The Defender 110, I'm telling you, it's my favorite car of all times. It's my third one. You know, I have stories of going off road. The guy managed the group. He was like, "What are you doing in this beautiful car?" I'm like, "I'm going off road." He's like, "Are you sure? Because you can use one of ours." And then they look like Mad Max cars. I'm like, "No, no, 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 we're going to do this." And he was shocked.
Wow. Well, it's great because the Defender has been reimagined for 21st century adventure, and its unparalleled off-road ability as well as its robust interior are invaluable whether you're headed towards uncharted territory or just a weekend of exploration. The Defender 110 tackles challenging surroundings with absolute confidence. The SUV conveys strength outside and in, featuring peerless technology like an intuitive driver display and an award-winning infotainment system. That's my favorite part, to keep you connected no matter where the journey takes you. Adventure is unique to everyone, and so is the Defender. Choose from the two-door Defender 90, the four-door Defender 110, or the larger Defender 130 with the ability to seat up to 8 passengers. You'll find uncompromising performance in all three. So pack up and go even further with the Defender 110. Learn more at LandRoverUSA.com/Defender.
These days, we're all investors, trying to be smart with our money despite our worst impulses. But at iShares, we believe that deep down inside of every investor is a better investor. One that's just waiting to be let out. Explore iShares ETFs and insights and let your best investor out. Visit iShares.com for more information.
What's it like to start Netflix, Redbox, MoviePass? You've basically, when you've started those three companies, you've changed the entire entertainment industry forever. So I get to talk to Mitch Lowe, co-founder of these companies. His book is called Watch and Learn. And I ask him very direct questions. I want to know what the future of content is, what the future of entertainment is. I've worked in the entertainment industry, pitched TV shows all over the entertainment industry. I'm skeptical of a lot of things. He was gracious enough to answer my questions. Here's Mitch Lowe. And what we realized in the beginning of this podcast is that he was on the podcast once before in 2014, so 8 years ago. So welcome back to the podcast, Mitch Lowe, after an 8-year absence from it. Here he is.
This isn't your average business podcast, and he's not your average host. This is the James Altucher Show.
Mitch, thanks so much for coming back on the podcast for your second appearance on the podcast. Mitch Lowe, co-founder of Netflix, a small little company you might have heard of, Redbox, and MoviePass. Mitch was on episode 66 back on December 1st, 2014. We both had trouble remembering it. Mitch, welcome back to the show.
Thank you. Thank you. It's really great to be back.
And Mitch, what's going on in your life that you decided to write a book and go on podcast again?
Well, you know, I've become a speaker. I kind of got roped into it by Mark Randolph, who is really the true founder of Netflix. He was writing a book called "It Will Never Work," which both he and I share a very common.
I love that title.
Understanding of that. And he was getting all these offers to go all over the world speaking about kind of the culture we created at Netflix, the innovation, kind of how the whole business got together. And he decided that he needed to spend time writing and sitting down and not traveling. So he introduced me to his agent. We hit it off. I kind of became the Mark Randolph stand-in. And in fact, today I would say I'm the Mark Randolph discount. When you can't afford his fees, you go to Mitch. So in these speeches I would give, especially at universities and conferences, I just found, it really kind of interesting sharing stories about how we developed the culture there and the innovation, the kind of that culture of innovation. And I thought, putting it all in a book, not as kind of, here's what you got to do. It's more like I'm telling stories of the processes we went through at each of those three companies, some that failed, some that succeeded, but it's really meant to share those stories and ideally help other founders and startup inventors.
And has it worked? Have you been I mean, you have a lot of experience, obviously, in entrepreneurship. You've been there, done that. You've had highs, you've had lows. You started out with crazy beginnings. Have you been able to help entrepreneurs?
I think so. Some of them say that I have.
What's like a success story? Because I find entrepreneurs are, as you know, are a particular breed. They have high conviction in their ideas, but that means they have high conviction in other things like funding, equity, exiting, all the kind of skill sets around entrepreneurship. And that high conviction sometimes could have negative consequences in some areas.
Yeah. Well, there's a number of examples, but one of them were these guys in Mexico that acquired, when I left Redbox, we purchased for $165 million all the Blockbuster Express kiosks and put them in a warehouse in Cincinnati. And I was looking for people to buy them who wouldn't compete with Redbox, but would start their own business either outside the US or in the US, but not a DVD rental business. And I found these guys who lived in San Diego, but did business in Mexico. And what I helped them do, not only did I sell them 4,000 of these kiosks, but as they kind of hit the wall where things weren't working right or the customer wasn't embracing the product, I helped them evolve and pivot. And now those guys have repurposed those kiosks to be CBD vending machines.
I love it.
And they're opening them all over the US, about 4,000 locations, doing really well. It's just one, but I hear mostly from college students who say, you've given me the inspiration to start my own company. And that to me is like a really great reward.
It's interesting because the reason I'm asking this is actually just yesterday I gave a talk at a university to an undergraduate class on entrepreneurship. And it's interesting seeing these students. Some, it's kind of just maybe, I don't want to say a blank look, they're not stupid, but they just sort of don't really understand why someone would go through the suffering that's often involved in entrepreneurship. And other people are just like hungry, like they want to be entrepreneurs and they have lots of motivations. Of course, money is one of them, but there's other motivations, being able to do what you love and being, in some sense, your own boss, although it's a different kind of, you have many bosses when you're an entrepreneur. In some sense, you're the opposite of a boss as an entrepreneur. Everybody's your boss, your employees, your customers, and so on. But what do you think is a good characteristic for a young person to be an entrepreneur? And then I want to get to the topics of your book.
I think, the characteristics are, I think, more a mix of two founders working together. I think, when I see an entrepreneur who is trying to do it on their own, they never cover the whole, they might have perseverance and they might have an analytical mind, but maybe they don't have people skills. And so oftentimes I find the combination of two people who really have kind of complement each other are the best. But the definite, critical behavior is comfort with ambiguity. You've got to be comfortable going forward without always knowing exactly the right path. You need to try things. You need to experiment. You need to kind of do these A/B testing, and oftentimes you don't know, what's going to pay off and what's not. So, I've seen people who aren't comfortable with ambiguity, like failing, miserably in the startup world.
This is really interesting because comfort with ambiguity doesn't just mean, from what you're saying, it doesn't just mean, hey, I'm going to try stuff and I don't know what happens. It also means I'm going to try stuff, but I have a back door in case it doesn't work so I can try new things.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's part of the skill set of being comfortable with ambiguity, is making sure you as often as possible can build that back door. Like, you never want to go to Las Vegas and bet your remaining cash on black and hey, I don't know what's going to happen, but let's see.
Right. That's a real critical component of it, and that's why oftentimes you need that complement person. I remember also. I think there's what is really driving you, and just to make money is probably the weakest driver. That is not kind of a recipe for success if all you want to do is be rich and take your helicopter into your high school reunion. It's what problem are you going to solve? What is something that's affected you personally that didn't work right? Everybody was upset about late fees. No one liked the limited inventory available. Uber, they wanted a car to show up wherever they were. But I think it's finding those things that are broken in life that you've felt and fixing those. Those are incredible motivations. Others, which really drove me, was when I first told my wife and kids about Netflix, and they laughed and said, "That's the stupidest idea we've ever heard, Dad." The motivation of proving them wrong, got me through a lot of those tough moments where you might have given up, had I not tried to do that.
Yeah, it's funny that your wife and kids said that, because I remember when my wife first ordered DVDs through Netflix, and I'm like, that's crazy. Like, I know me personally, I would never return them. Not because I'm stealing them, but I don't even know where the post office is. Like, how am I going to return these DVDs? Like, it seems like you're giving me a homework assignment when I just want to watch a movie and there's already HBO and so on.
Yeah.
But then she was regularly ordering and sending, as long as she was taking care of the sending back, we were having a fun time watching like 2-3 movies a week, sending them back, getting new ones, and it worked.
The product team at Netflix really, pulled a rabbit out of the hat. It wouldn't have worked if they hadn't developed this concept of a queue, which was go in and make a list of all the movies you want to see. And so that when you send one back, you're not forced to then go in and pick a new movie. You've already got a put together list.
Right.
Yeah. So they really, solved a lot of problems, not 100% of them, not the one you described. Streaming definitely gets you closer to what I'm sure you would love.
But the queue is very interesting, because a typical scenario we've all been through is I just remember in college going to the video store with my girlfriend and literally having like the biggest argument of our lives because we couldn't decide on a movie. And so when you have the queue, it's kind of already decided, oh, we got the next movie. Like, let's just put it in.
Your decision-making ability goes away after you decide it's in the queue somewhere.
Your decision-making ability goes away. Jay, you got to write that one down, because that's key. When you remove decisions from people, you solve problems, because decisions take energy, and anything that takes energy is a little bit of a problem. Like, if I have to walk up a hill, that's a problem. It's hard to walk up a hill. So because it takes too much energy. But how did you know? Was it just like a random feature? Oh, let's make a queue, because what if they have more than they want to rent more than we can give? Let's just put the rest in the queue. Was that just by accident? And how did you realize that was a key feature?
The fortunate thing about devising those features was that everybody, like 80+% of people, were video store renters. So people had these experiences kind of on a regular basis. And so as the product team was talking through this, you get 4 movies, you can trade them out whenever you want. One of the people just popped up and said, yeah, but I don't want to have to go in and, if I'm going to lose the value of my subscription if I don't get something right away, and maybe I'm not in the mood to go shopping. So they thought of this queue. So they, really good product people walk through the process just like a customer does. And they try to put themselves in the shoes of the customer. And when you're a video store renter, previous to that, you had a lot of the kind of the visceral understanding of that process. So it just came out of continuing to talk about it. One of the biggest innovations later on at Netflix was the post-play feature that automatically goes to the next episode of a series. No one did that before Netflix. That if you were on, cable, you had to, and you wanted to see the next episode, you had to do stop, back, search, play. And someone came into the office one day and said, wait a minute, I'm probably going to want to watch the next episode. Why don't we just have it go automatically in 15 seconds to the next step? Those were the kinds of consumer features that built amazing loyalty.
And again, that was another way of removing a decision from the consumer. Like you don't have to decide what to watch next. It's already playing.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
While you were thinking about what to watch next, the next episode started. Well, I got to continue this episode.
Right. And I'll tell you, you have hit upon kind of the biggest value of subscription. When you have subscription, you can watch whatever you want, whether it was at Netflix or, my big failure of MoviePass. You basically remove that a la carte decision making. Like, is this movie worth it? If you went to Blockbuster, is it worth $4? I don't know. Maybe I'll wait. If it's a movie theater and it's $10 to $15, maybe I'll wait for it to come on Netflix. So by removing that, you now want to discover new stuff and you're willing to take risks because you can walk out.
It's very interesting. You mentioned this about subscription. So content has essentially, let's call it two models. Advertisements, you sell advertisements on your content, and subscription. And it feels like subscription is a better business model because if you subscribe for a year and there's a recession through that year, advertising budgets could stop in a second. But subscription, you've already subscribed, so you have to keep going. So it helps companies subscribe to get through recessions more easily, and it allows for more reliable predictions of revenue. And yet Wall Street in general doesn't like subscription revenues for some reason.
Yeah.
Like when they talk to the Wall Street Journal, let's say there's a public company that's a magazine, they want to know your advertising revenue. They don't care about how many subscribers you have. Like, why do you think Wall Street, smart people in general, but why do you think they care so much about advertising when subscription is like the best model in the world?
Yeah, well, advertising has its shortcomings and also doesn't appeal to everybody. That's why, the big growth area in streaming is advertising supported streaming sites. But I think what Wall Street recognizes is that people who are paying are more reliable as establishing the value. It's kind of like if you can get someone to pay for your service in a subscription, it's diluted. They like kind of the whole ball of wax, but they're not really voting with their eyeballs as much. There is a proxy for it in the streaming world, but I think the Wall Street understands advertisers only pay when they're getting the right kind of eyeballs on your site.
But why do you think Wall Street likes advertising supported businesses better than subscription supported businesses? Netflix excluded from this.
I think there's some odd parts in subscription. You don't need to make the money off of an individual piece of content. Therefore, you can subsidize lots of expensive content because of the subscription, the spreading out of the revenue. And many, many series, lose money. Whereas in an advertising or a pay-per-view model, people have to pay, right? You have to make money on each individual product that you acquire. So it puts a higher level of discipline in your biggest expenditure, which is creating content. Whether it's a newspaper or a journal or it's a streaming site.
So, you've had this common theme running through your career, and this speaks to the motivation issue. Like, if your only motivation was money, then it probably wouldn't work out. Like, even from your stories from when you were a kid or when you were traveling around Europe, you were always interested in entertainment and entertainment people and movie producers and content. From your first video distribution company to Netflix to Redbox to MoviePass, obviously we see a theme here. In a few minutes, I want to get back to Netflix because there's just so many fascinating questions there. And I know you weren't involved the whole way, but I know also you obviously followed it. MoviePass, This seemed like such a fantastic idea, and obviously you thought so as well.
Mhm.
What was quite the issue that, ultimately led to its demise? And unfortunately, I wish you had survived 2 more months, because then you would have held out for big stimulus packages. But what was the problem?
It was a business model that needed more time. And there was things we could have done to kind of slow down the growth. In hindsight, that growth really brought us down. Because if you are attracting and reinvigorating the theater going business, what you need all these side revenue streams. And you need discounts from the big theaters. You need to make money by turning that card into a purchase vehicle for coffee and dinner and so on before and after the movie. You need to sell advertising, because our advertising was incredibly effective driving people to small films. So you need all these streams of revenue and discounts that just were going to take a lot longer than the money that we had to survive. If you look at Spotify lost $1.4 billion before they got to a break even. They had the time, because they had the backers and the allies, to be able to pay huge amounts of royalties until the revenue started catching up with it. And we just didn't have the time.
But Spotify also is a business that works with the person sitting at home. And I think a lot of businesses lately are about, because of the pandemic in part, and for other reasons, it's about how can we make the experience of sitting at home better? So like Uber Eats, Netflix,
Right.
and online courses. I can just sit at home all day now, and the
Right.
world comes to me.
Right.
And
Yep.
movie audiences were already declining. And you see this even in the quality of the content. Like, it's just blockbuster hits now, like Marvel movies, that make it. Just brainstorming for a second. And so MoviePass, for people who don't know, is a subscription service for movie tickets. It's a great idea, except if the movie going audience was declining, how do you fix that problem?
Yeah, well, that's what we proved we could make a big impact on. The people who joined MoviePass went to twice as many movies as they went before MoviePass.
Mm.
And 2018, where we were very active for the first 6 months before our demise started affecting us, we bought 6.6% of all the movie tickets in the country. And that was the first year in 10 years that there was more tickets sold than the previous year. All the other years had declined. And the only way the studios made up for it is by every year raising the prices.
You say you bought the tickets, and this is where I always wonder, like, this is kind of the nuances of entrepreneurship. Like, one possible decision could have been, hey, let's partner with all the theater companies, because they're also experiencing a problem of declining audience, and have them let's give them 50% of the company, and they split equally between them, or pro rata between them, that 50%, and they give us the millions of movie tickets, so you don't have to spend that money.
Yeah, great strategy. We tried it to a certain extent. We had even before I joined MoviePass, there was a 2-year partnership with AMC in Boston and Denver to prove out what the impact of MoviePass was on AMC loyalty club members. A third party analyzed the data and saw that those AMC club members who joined MoviePass bought twice as many dollars worth of concessions at 80% margin. They went to the movies twice as often. We thought that would happen, but I kept getting pushback. And as I got to learn what was going on in that industry, is that the studios have pretty much a stranglehold on the pricing models that theaters do. You saw this last week. They had this $3 movie ticket you could buy for the day. And I think they sold 4 million tickets, something, it may not be the right number, but the movie theaters as an industry, as a group, had to fight like crazy just to get a Tuesday discount day from the studios. They had to fight like crazy to get senior discount days back 20, 30 years ago. And think about it. Why do you pay the same thing for Top Gun as you would a small independent, like I, Tonya? It's because the studios have established a minimum amount you have to pay us regardless of what you charge. And that minimum amount forces higher pricing and removes the ability for theaters to do dynamic pricing like they do in Europe and Latin America and all over the world except for the US.
So when you were negotiating with theater chains, they felt probably too obligated to get the blessing of the studios to do a deal with you.
To do a bigger strategic deal. We did get 2,000 screens, mostly all independents, to integrate into our app, give us a 25% discount. And that worked really well. And in fact, that's all we wanted. We wanted the same price that you would pay if you walk into a Costco. Anybody who's a Costco member can walk into a Costco and buy a booklet of AMC tickets or some of the other big chains, all at a 25% discount. That's all we wanted. We didn't want any more than that, because that was one of the 6 ways for us to get to profitability.
And why do you think, like you mentioned how Spotify was able to raise billions of dollars, what do you think was the stumbling block? And I mean, you discuss a lot in the book, but we're just talking, like, what do you think was the big stumbling block in raising money?
It just happened too quick. This going from 20,000 subscribers to 3.2 million subscribers was like 9 months. And so it just happened, too quick. In hindsight, I should have had a waiting list, because we had to not only resolve capacity issues, fraud issues, partnership issues, adding these new revenue streams, and it just went too fast. It took Spotify much longer to get to their first 1 million subscribers.
I mean, could you have been acquired? Like, could you have called Netflix and say, hey, this is a good business, acquire us? Because like YouTube is an example where YouTube would have gone out of business because of their storage costs, but Google bought them for whatever it was, 500 million. And that was the way they solved that problem. Otherwise they would have had the same demise as MoviePass.
I had a conversation with Reed Hastings during this process. And in his opinion, in some ways he's right, movie theaters were going out of business anyway. So he was not interested in the business itself. The only thing he's interested in is when the Academy or the Cannes Film Festival institutes these archaic rules about qualifying that you need to have a theatrical showing. What he'll do is he'll buy out a movie theater for a week or 2 weeks and show one of the Netflix films just to get qualification. That's his only interest in theaters. And at one point at MoviePass, we won the bid on buying Landmark Cinema, about 50 theaters around the U.S.
Oh, didn't Mark Cuban own that?
That's who we were negotiating with, Mark and Todd Wagner, who was his partner. And the deal fell through, and when it was falling, because our funding fell through, and that's when I reached out to Reed because I thought this is the perfect combo. But he was not interested because he didn't believe in the future of theaters.
You know what I love about fantasy sports is that even though I'm not going to be a great basketball player or a baseball player or a football player or whatever, I feel like I get to participate and make decisions and use my knowledge of these different leagues or these different sports to compete. So it's like I can pick my team or I can pick my favorite players, and I could use my knowledge to make predictions and maybe even make money. So with the basketball season here, you can now pick combo projections across football and basketball from the Specials League on Prize Picks. This is a league created specifically for combo projections that include 2 or more players from different sports or leagues. Want to play alongside some of Prize Picks' favorite players like rapper Meek Mill and comedian Andrew Schultz, who's also been a guest on this podcast, and I've been a guest on his? You can now find community plays under the promos tab of the app to view entries for some of the biggest names in the Prize Picks community each week. Look, Prize Picks even offers a reboot policy so that your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. Prize Picks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with an injury insurance policy. What? So I love playing it. I love anywhere where I can use analytical ability with my interests to demonstrate some skill and maybe make some money. And I like the game like aspect. I do wish they had chess as a category on prizepicks.com, but I'll settle for what they've got. Maybe I should make my own fantasy chess league. But in any case, I love Prize Picks. Go to prizepicks.com/James. Use code James for a first deposit match up to $100. That's the easiest $100 you're ever going to make. So that's prizepicks.com/James and use code James. Daily fantasy sports made easy. The future of learning is definitely online. Like, it's such BS that you have to spend $200,000 or take $200,000 in loans and go to some fancy school when it's useless. It doesn't guarantee you a job. Most employers, including me, do not care about degrees or grades or anything like that. We want to care that you love what you're doing, that you know what you're doing, in some cases that you have experience or that you're willing to learn. But people in general love learning and are curious. Like, the key to success is curiosity. And I think masterclass.com is the perfect model for online learning. I'm really happy they're sponsoring this episode. If you're going to give a gift, give the gift of learning. Masterclass makes a meaningful gift this season for you and anyone on your list, because both of you can learn from the best to become your best, from leadership to effective communication to cooking. Let me tell you some of the classes I've taken. I've taken comedy from Steve Martin. I mean, can you believe I can take a class from Steve Martin on comedy, or Judd Apatow, my favorite comedy director? I could take an actual class from him on writing. Wolfgang Puck on cooking. Dan Brown on writing, or Judy Bloom, who's been on this podcast, on writing. By the way, Wolfgang Puck also has been on this podcast. It's such a pleasure. I try to take classes all the time from masterclass.com. And whether you're watching Masterclass on TV or listening in audio mode in the app or on their site, the quality speaks for itself. It's like these Masterclass instructors are your own personal mentors that are going to help you reach the next level. How much would it cost to take one-on-one classes on comedy from Steve Martin or on chess from Gary Kasparov? You just wouldn't be able to do it. But it would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. With a Masterclass annual membership, it's $10 a month. Memberships start at $120 a year for unlimited access to one-on-one classes with all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. So it's not just $120 for one instructor. You get all 180 plus Masterclass instructors. Boost your confidence and find practical takeaways you can apply to your life and at work. And if you own a business or are a team leader, use Masterclass to empower and create future-ready employees and leaders. That's the real education in today's world. So this holiday season, you can give one annual membership and get one free at masterclass.com/JAS. JAS, of course, stands for the James Altucher Show. So right now you can get two memberships for the price of one at masterclass.com/JAS. Masterclass.com/JAS. Offer terms apply. Let me brainstorm a little more, if you don't mind. I'm pretending I'm on the board of MoviePass in 2019 when things are getting heated.
Ouch.
And so a lot of XPass spinoffs have resulted from the MoviePass idea, like ClassPass. I was working with a comedy club for a while that they were doing LaughPass to have tickets to comedy shows all over the country. All of this stemmed from your original idea of MoviePass, or the original concept. And all of them are having similar kinds of issues and problems. But one thing that's interesting is that a lot of companies, let's take American Express. A lot of people within American Express likes to offer benefits to their customers. Could you have done a distribution deal with American Express where, like, hey, if someone gets a platinum American Express, $1 of their, they get access to MoviePass as well, or some percentage of MoviePass. Could you have done deals like that?
I think that's a good idea. That we had a pretty good business development group that was working on deals like that. iHeartMedia, for example, we launched a partnership where with MoviePass, you also got their Spotify-like music service at a I think a 70% discount. So, we had a number of programs like that, but all those were kind of, kind of helping out on the edges.
Yeah.
The overall problem in any kind of all-you-can-eat subscription, and we had this at Netflix too, is that the first people who are attracted to use the service are those people who are heavy users to begin with. And so they just max out on this all-you-can-eat subscription. So to survive and to get to kind of a lower usage, we were going to pay more for the tickets than what we were bringing in revenue. To get there, we needed more people in the Midwest and we needed more of the average consumer. And that takes time because you get those heavy users and those users in expensive markets. That was the biggest kind of determinant is, you need more time in those all-you-can-eat programs.
Now, it's interesting because through all of this is, again, the element of consuming content and making content decisions easier, even in terms of like how much you have to move. So like with the original Netflix, I don't have to go to the video store. I can get mailed stuff. Maybe I have to go to the post office later. And then ultimately streaming with even with MoviePass, I don't have to decide whether to see a movie. I should see a movie because I paid for this MoviePass.
Yeah.
By the way, there's an interesting kind of Warren Buffett-like thing with MoviePass too, which is people pay you in advance for things they haven't yet done. And so you have a float like an insurance company has. Was there any possibility? I mean, you weren't profitable, so I guess there wasn't possibilities of investing that float for additional profits. But that's an interesting part of the subscription model too, when people are paying way in advance.
Yeah. And that's the concept we launched in November, December of 2018, where we sold an annual pass and, for $100. So it was a 20% discount, even from our already low price. And we were all, our plan was to raise prices eventually once we got to 5 million subscribers. That was a number we thought, okay, now we have enough clout and enough, we're helping so much that the theaters couldn't help but at least give us that 25% discount.
And what did it, like, obviously you had the email addresses of these 5 million people. Would it have been, and maybe you did this as a revenue source, but could you have charged studios to advertise on that email list?
Yeah. And in the early part of 2018, we were earning anywhere from $500,000 to almost $1 million a month in advertising, mostly from small studios. And, we showed, I know I keep using the I, Tonya example, but we found that when we promoted a title to our subscriber base, of course, we would look at likelihood to enjoy that film based on their history. But when we promoted a film like I, Tonya, 18% of our subscribers would go to that movie within a week. And that is you can't find targeted marketing any better than that. So we wanted the studios to pay us $1 to $2 per ticket that we purchased when we promote their film. For them, it was a great deal because every dollar a studio makes in the box office translates to, on average, $10 in downstream revenues, higher revenue contracts when you're licensing, et cetera.
Oh, I didn't know that. So who owns that email list now?
The founders, or one of the founders, bought the company out of bankruptcy, and I'm assuming that list was a part of the assets.
Because it seems like if you shut off every other part of MoviePass except that email list, like you say, you can make $1 million a month with relatively little costs. Like you just send out an email every day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know what they relaunched MoviePass this last week.
I didn't know that.
With a big variation. It's a point system. So there's a $10, $20, $30 plan. They opened it up as a waiting list. I guess they got 775,000 people signing up for it. And then they opened on Monday in 3 markets, I think Kansas City and I can't think of what the other two markets are, but I haven't, of course, I live in Mexico, so I can't use it, but it's a points-based system.
And are you involved with the new Movie Pass at all? You decided not to participate?
Yeah, no, I'm not involved.
Yeah, it's still an interesting idea. I mean, probably everybody now would say movie theaters are on the decline, so maybe that's a suspect part. But the email list seems very powerful. Like 5
Yeah.
million people on an active email list, and you demonstrated that 18% of the people who get an email are going to the movie. That is like so powerful, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, but remember the reason it wasn't how creative the advertising was. It was, I've already paid for it. I don't have to pay anything to take your recommendation of a film. So it would be hard to, it'd be impossible to get those same kind of results if the person now has to pay $10 or $15 for the ticket.
Yeah, although they do buy concessions, but I guess the studios don't benefit from that. But maybe people who like I, Tanya, for instance, like other things, and you're able to target those advertisers. It's just I'm saying this is a hot list of people who have recently given their credit card information to you, so they're interested in paying for content. So just on that basis alone, people who produce content would be interested in that list.
Yeah, great list.
But anyway, it's segueing here, we're brainstorming, but it's interesting how you build these things. I used to work at HBO, and I remember thinking, and this is in the 90s, so I don't know what it costs now for companies to buy movies, but back then, to get the studio to let HBO have a free run with Batman would cost like $60 million. But it was worth it, because when you have 30 million subscribers paying $30 a month, you're essentially making $1 billion a month. It's ridiculous how much money HBO was making. Like, they were the most valuable part by far of the Time Warner family.
Yeah. It's those numbers have just gone, just keep going up. Today, mostly HBO and Netflix, licenses or makes their own product. The Amazon Prime, they gave the owners of the Lord of the Rings, the Tolkien estate, $250 million just for the rights to make a sequel or a prequel. And then they spent another 300 and some odd million dollars to make the first season. So it's a lot.
Like, if Netflix was going to distribute or have Top Gun on its service, what do you think they pay for Top Gun?
It would easily be in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Wow. And so you really need like some PhDs in math to figure out what's worth it and what's not. Like, would you, if you had every movie but Top Gun, would you make those hundreds of millions less in revenues at the end of the year?
It's really, it is a fascinating analytical problem. It's a combination of what does the competitor have, and who are the people who are churning at Netflix, and would that keep them from quitting? Maybe you've had this experience, but many, whether it's Showtime or HBO or other streaming services like Netflix and Disney Plus, when they launch a big new series, what they get is they get a lot of people signing up and then quitting right after they binge watched or watched that whole series. So what the sites have to do is they have to look at who is it that this appeals to, and would it prevent people who we believe are about to quit, would it prevent them from quitting and staying longer? So it's, even Netflix, if you look at it, around 4% of all subscribers cancel every month. So, that if you kind of work that out, that's like not much more than 2 years and everybody is canceled. Yet, how could you have 200 million users and 100 of those in the US if you lose them every 2 years? After 8 years, like what do you do? So what happens is people quit and then come back, quit and then come back. And that's where the formula of what content the license becomes really interesting. It all is around changing the churn impact on your business, like reducing churn.
But it's interesting, and like HBO kind of paved the way, where they started with being just a movie channel, and then they added live sports, and that was, the light bulb that, oh, if we produce something, that also creates users. And then they started producing original content, and then of course Showtime followed, and now, many years later, we have Netflix, Amazon, Disney Plus, and a billion other streaming services making original content. So at some point, when does streaming become a commodity? Because you can't even brand yourself with original content, because there's pretty much just as good original content on every service. Unless you specifically need to watch Squid Game, I can find just as good original content on HBO Max or Disney Plus.
Yeah. I think, entertainment, when you separate out the kind of these big hit titles, these icons, is really a commodity. It's really, I need to fill some time with some fun or learning, or it's really a time issue. How much time can I fill with it? But you're right. Now that everybody has amazing stuff, but different, Disney is more than half the size of Netflix in less than 2 years. And it's because of their content. So I think it already is commoditized in a lot of people's minds. And I think in the same way that there's no reason to ever buy a movie or a TV series anymore, I think that same holds true, is that maybe I'll watch Netflix for a couple months, and then I'll switch over to Disney, and then I'll switch over to Paramount Plus, just to, kind of have a fresh new inventory of things to watch. So I don't think there's the loyalty that there was, let's say, before Disney Plus launched 2 years ago.
Yeah, because then, I just saw an ad yesterday for a streaming service I never heard of, Mubi, Mubi, and never heard of it, don't know what it is. But suddenly they're advertising. So it's like getting more and more. So what do you think Netflix will do? Netflix being the leader, will they do anything to, just as Blockbuster failed to do something, what will Netflix be able to kind of overcome this commoditization?
Yeah. Well, I think they've realized they've got to keep, creating great content, but they've got to do something more. And they've already announced that they're going to create an AVOD service, an advertising supported service, that's either free or super discounted, because there are, hundreds and hundreds of millions of consumers that can't afford even the low price that they have. So that's one tactic. The second is they've been buying into gaming, and they're now kind of toying with, they're doing a little bit of gaming, but I think this is only my opinion, this is part of this metaverse strategy to create this meta world of Netflix, where their subscribers or users in the AVOD service can enter with their avatar into a mall or a movie studio lot that is Netflix. They can not only browse categories and see previews, but they can talk to other customers, like we all did in the video store days. They'll run into the avatar of a friend or someone you've never met and talk about a movie. They could even have the actors and creators of content in a red carpet environment there to interact with millions of people who can enter and participate in that. So I think their gaming purchase shows that they're thinking 5-10 years ahead, where our customers, the main customers 10 years from now are like under 20 now. And they like to interact in this kind of meta world in a gaming environment. So I think Netflix is very forward thinking in that category.
I wonder if it's too late to build a Twitch-like service. So you get the rights to stream certain games, and, I would love to be able to log on to Netflix and watch my favorite Twitch streams. So, because I don't think I can do that on Amazon Prime at all. I have to go onto my computer and not the TV. So no one's really done, I don't think, a kind of streaming Twitch-like service that's a little bit more live.
Yeah, I think that is a really interesting opportunity. It's amazing when you look at the YouTube stats of how many viewers are watching people playing games.
Oh yeah, the stat of I don't know, the League of Legends, uh, uh, some championship in League of Legends did better than like all the NBA finals like combined.
It's
So
incredible.
yeah, I
It's
know it's
incredible.
incredible. It's like a different world. But even like content, like take Squid Game as an example. You could,
Mhm.
I bet you there's a video on YouTube of the creator of Squid Game talking about his story of how he pitched around Squid Games. I bet you that has like 50 million views.
Yeah,
And
I
maybe
bet.
there's a kind of content that's not quite the standard format, but that Netflix could start picking off from places like YouTube. Like YouTube's almost like a marketplace of content that Netflix could acquire.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I think everybody's got to be in the streaming world a little bit nervous about both YouTube and TikTok. Their companies like TikTok are hiring former Netflix executives and I think it's part of the strategy to make TikTok more Netflixy, and Netflix on the other hand trying to become more TikToky, and I think part of that is some collaboration with user generated content, as well as all these other things that are related to the entertainment world. So, shorter form content. I think user created. I think those are really the future of all those sites.
It's funny because TikTok, people make fun of TikTok and like, oh, I'm not going to waste my time on TikTok. TikTok is amazing.
Yeah.
There is out of 7 billion people, there's a set of about 5 million kids who are so
Mhm.
amazingly talented at whatever it is, like jumping off buildings or, doing some crazy magic or interviewing
Yeah.
people in the street in some crazy way, or dancing, of course. It's amazing. So everybody who creates content is competing for eyeballs with TikTok. Like that's the high bar.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's difficult. Like the reason why like I watch any TV at all is because late at night, I'm with my wife, we had
Mhm.
a long day and we don't want to go from TikTok. We just want to watch Mad Men and
Right.
binge watch
Right.
it. So there's like a
Right.
specific problem streaming services solves for us that TikTok doesn't. But other than that, I don't think I'd watch TV. It's not like I go in a cab and watch TV. I watch TikTok.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting the next generation. Oh my gosh, I love these clothes. Mizzen and Main. That's Mizzen and Main. It really is the most comfortable work clothes. Travel clothes. I had to travel this whole week. I'm traveling for a week and a half, and I just took Mizzen and Main clothes with me. Close out 2023 in style with comfortable, breathable, packable, and machine washable pieces from Mizzen and Main. As you wrap up your year end goals, enjoy a Mizzen and Main dress shirt that you can wear confidently. I like that they've very, very just nice, solid colors. I don't really like to get all fancy in patterns and everything, although they do have some pattern shirts, but very comfortable clothes, stretchable pants. It's just super comfortable, but they look professional and you can wear them casually or professionally. I like some of their flannel shirts or untuck shirts. I love untuck. I never tuck in. So again, whether you're shopping for a special someone or giving yourself the gift you really want, I just buy myself gifts. Mizzen and Main is the perfect gift for any guy who works, travels, and or cares about looking and feeling great. As you could tell by my many photos across the internet, I care about looking fantastic. I'm practically a model. And let's be honest, every guy loves to look great. So again, shop now at mizzenandmain.com and save 20% when you spend $130 or more using promo code James. That's promo code James at Mizzen and Main, Mizzen and Main.com. This is such a valuable service for all business owners, big businesses, small businesses, doesn't matter. I wish I had this in the many different businesses that I've started. Sometimes it seems like your business is humming, but then suddenly you don't understand it. You're starting to fall behind. You're not understanding where your costs are, where your revenues are, where your payments are.
teams are buried in all sorts of like BS work and you can't seem to close the books. So you need like one dashboard, one source of truth. I'm jealous of this business, NetSuite from Oracle, of course, NetSuite by Oracle. I wish I'd come up with this idea. It's a brilliant concept to have all your business intelligence on one dashboard. This is why you need to know these three numbers: 37,000, 25, and 1. So 37,000, that's the number of businesses which have upgraded to NetSuite by Oracle. NetSuite is the number one cloud financial system, streamlining accounting, financial management, inventory, HR, and more. 25, NetSuite turns 25 this year. That's 25 years of helping businesses do more with less, close their books in days, not weeks, and drive down costs. 1, because your business is one of a kind. So you get a customized solution for all of your key performance indicators, your KPIs, in one efficient system with one source of truth. Manage risk, get reliable forecasts, and improve margins. Everything you need to grow all in one place. So right now, download NetSuite's popular KPI checklist designed to give you consistently excellent performance absolutely free at netsuite.com/James. That's netsuite.com/James to get your own KPI checklist. netsuite.com/James.
Here's a question I always wonder too. And you might not know the answer to this, but let's say there's all these streaming services and everybody's creating original content. How come there are still actors working as waiters? Like, why isn't every actor and writer hired?
It's amazing. I don't know the answer to that, but it may be like that chapter in Freakonomics in the first version, where I think the chapter is something like, why did drug dealers and real estate agents work for minimum wage?
Yeah, that chapter was, why do crack dealers live with their moms?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's because, that's might be a different story, but the idea here is that possibility that you could make it big attracts a huge amount of people wanting to get big, whether it's in the movie business or in real estate. And so I think part of it, even though there's this huge renaissance, last year there was over $120 billion spent by just the top 10 streaming companies on new content, just 1 year. And that's really just US. That's not, the rest of the world, which you would think there's jobs galore, for people. But why? It may be that as it grows, the influx of people who want that career and believe they can do it, maybe it grows faster than,
That must be the case, because let's say before there was 100 shows on prime time on ABC, NBC, CBS. Now there are 10,000 shows. There are 100,000 shows. So and each one hires a cast of 10, say. This is 1 million jobs for actor wannabes as opposed to 50 jobs for actor wannabes.
Absolutely. There's worldwide, there's roughly 50,000 episodes created every year worldwide.
Oh my God. I can't understand what the issue is. If someone wants to be an actor, they should just be able to just show up at the studio and say, I'm here. Like,
right.
How many people could be, anyway, that's just a random question I had.
No, it's an interesting thought. I don't know I don't really know the answer.
What's a problem now you see out there that you would be interested in solving? Like if you were young in your 20s and thinking about entrepreneurship, what would excite you right now?
I like to have some impact on the things that I deal with personally, so that, I kind of really feel the problem. And one of the things that I think is there's kind of two categories. One is in entertainment. The other is in startup investing. And one of the things that I think is in startup investing is when you as a angel investor invest in someone you believe in and you really believe in the passion and the project of a new company, you wire the money And then you really don't, without a lot of work, you don't really have insight into what's going on, and you don't want to have to attend shareholder meetings or board meetings or constant. So I think a platform using, blockchain and smart contracts, I think there's a way to make it easier for small time investors, who are putting 25 grand, 50 grand into having more insight, more insight into what the companies are doing. That's one. The other that I think is becoming a big challenge, and it's just as a result of these 50,000 episodes being made, is how do you find something you're going to like without working at it? And how do you find something you're going to like that's totally new, that's a surprise? Because I don't know about you, but when I search for stuff, it keeps popping up the same things, that I've already seen or I've already rejected. So this ability to analyze content in a way that really can help you discover and help the studios figure out what to say to you versus me, I think that's a real interesting space.
I mean, Netflix is dived into that a little bit, right? Like I remember one time years ago, they offered a huge prize for someone to improve the algorithm, and the algorithm's pretty good. Like if I watch Downtown Abbey, I don't know, I forget if that was on Netflix originally or not, but then suddenly all these other 19th century and early 20th century British shows pop up on the screen.
Right. That's one of the things that Netflix has gotten really, really good at. They not only use that in determining what content to license or to create, but then once they have it, they know how to market it. And you'll notice over the last couple of years, there's now these 3 words beneath every title that indicate kind of the mood or how you're going to feel when watching that piece of content. And that is that's dynamically presented to you because that's what they know will resonate with you and make you want to see it, or at least be a clear indicator. But no one else is anywhere near as close as Netflix is. And that understanding doesn't transfer. If you're using Amazon Prime and you're using Netflix and you're using Disney, each one of those has their own different way to present content to you. And by and large, it's not very sophisticated. I mean, there's dozens of companies working on this. The one I find the most fascinating is co-founded by the guy who wrote the Pandora music genome, which was really responsible for Pandora getting that huge valuation and that sale to Sirius. He trained musicians to genomically code music in thousands of attributes with levels of strength, anywhere from 1 to 10. And that is, if you go back to Pandora and look at the difference between music that was recommended to you there versus Spotify, it's like night and day difference. And he, amongst many others, are doing that same thing for movies and shows.
That's fascinating because, I mean, TikTok is known, for instance, for having a great algorithm because they know within the first few seconds, they A/B test every piece of content immediately, and they have billions of users. So they're able to very quickly see what they should rise to the top in the algorithm. But Netflix doesn't have as many, all the streaming services, you're watching a 2-hour movie, you're not watching a 30-second clip. So it's harder to do that kind of, it's a different type of service. So you can't do that kind of algorithm. Another area where I feel the streaming services are losing eyeballs is, let's say I love, again, Squid Game as an example. Now I want to talk about it with somebody. Well, on Reddit, there's 1 million people talking about Squid Games on Reddit. On YouTube, there's 1 million people commenting on videos that analyze the last episode of. And I feel like that's a place where the streaming services haven't really cared much about keeping the eyeballs around for the discussion.
Yeah. I think that's a result of binge watching. It's hard if you have people talking about like episode 1 or episode 6, and someone else is just starting episode 1, it kind of, ruins the kind of the evolution of the entertainment. So In fact, I think it really is bad in some ways for building buzz around a series. Not that we go to work anymore, but in the days where we would go to work, we could talk about, the Sopranos third episode because we were all on the same, episode. You weren't going to give it away. There was always a cliffhanger. Hey, what do you think's going to happen? Who's going to get shot? So I think even though binge watching has huge benefits, and I do it myself all the time and love it, I think it removes that ability to socialize your opinion and conversation, at least on the site itself.
Yeah, that's true. No, that's a good point. So it's interesting. Like right now, you're focused on, I guess, angel investing, speaking.
Mhm.
What's exciting you about the future? Where do you see the future of content going? Do you think with so many shows being made, do you think the peak television has passed in terms of quality, or are we still yet to have peak quality television?
I think we still are going to see more interesting content. I think the competition goes beyond the special effects and into really good storytelling, and that still is hard to do. I'm really excited about the future because I think this kind of combination of the ability for almost anybody to make content, with an iPhone, with some story making skills. I think that combined with the professionals and the streaming services that, even these ones that don't have gatekeepers like a Netflix or so on, I think that's going to create a whole new world of this kind of combined entertainment. And I think this opening up into a whole new world and new ways to watch, I think that to me is going to be very interesting.
It will be interesting because I feel like from, let's say, 2000 to 2015, and 2015 maybe being the beginning, a lot of these streaming services or the rise in popularity of streaming services, there was sort of this golden age of television. You had all the HBO shows, then you had AMC coming out with like Mad Men and Breaking Bad, and
Right.
every network that was doing original programming was making amazing shows. And now these streaming services are making so many shows. Like you
Yeah.
said earlier, it's really hard to find good ones. And I'm sure there's good
Mhm.
ones on every network or every streaming service, but everything on HBO was great. Everything that
Yeah.
AMC was putting out was great, or Showtime or whatever. And
Mhm.
like Mad Men or Breaking Bad was almost like this peak, this golden age of television where TV was beautiful. And I guess
Mhm.
that's still true for the best shows, but I wonder if that starts to get more and more diluted.
Yeah, we're just are coming out of the worst part of the pandemic, and people really gorged on watching stuff at home or on their TV or mobile device. And there's naturally going to be a decline in viewing, and that may have more people working in the restaurants as waiters. But I think the opportunity to create content is going to like pervade our lives. It's going, this idea of product placement is going to turn into, big billboards or even monitors in sidewalks that know who you are and are promoting either a piece of content or a product or a service. And I think, 10 years from now, we will look around and go, geez, there's monitors everywhere, trying to get us to look at what they want to sell us or what they want us to watch. You can even, and I talk about this in the last chapter of my book, is, the future is, driverless cars driving down the street and all the billboards are showing a series you're watching and they know when you pass by and, just keeps going to the next billboard. Maybe that's a little too crazy, but I think we're going to live in a world, at least in cities, where it's going to be monitors galore, more than people.
Finally, I'm curious, why do you live in Mexico right now? What brought you to Mexico?
I just, I fell in love with living on the beach and or near the beach, I guess. I love the food. I love the people. It's just it's just a really nice place to live. Yes, there's some dangerous places in Mexico, but as long as you stay away from, a few little cities, it's a safe and really fun place to live.
Well, Mitch Lowe, you've been in the center of the entertainment industry for decades. Essentially, co-founder of Netflix, Redbox, MoviePass, and so many great insights about entrepreneurship. I highly recommend everyone read your book just out, Watch and Learn, and the subtitles How I Turned Hollywood Upside Down with Netflix, Redbox, and MoviePass. And then a further subtitle, I've never seen a second subtitle, Lessons in Disruption. And Mark Randolph, who you mentioned was the true founder of Netflix, writes the forward. So great book, great stories, great insights. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast again. I super appreciate it. And I look forward to the next time.
Great. Yeah, no, it's great to see you again. And maybe I'll be on episode 2000.
Yeah. Oh, and I want to mention, by the way, you've been on a lot of great podcasts and done a lot of great interviews, which is why sometimes I didn't go all into the details of your personal stories. People should listen to all the podcasts that you've been on because it really covers a lot of different facets of the book and the stories you tell. I just wanted to kind of answer talk about my questions about the entertainment industry, and you were very gracious in answering. So thank you.
Yeah, no, this was a lot of fun. It was great to see you.
Your daily dose of gaming just got way more epic with the Snapdragon processor powering the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Snapdragon processors give you the premium mobile experience that triggers your inner champion. Whenever you want, wherever you want. Get ready for edge-of-your-seat performance, advanced customizations, ultra-realistic graphics, and adrenaline-boosting speeds that have the power to move you in more ways than one. Follow us on Instagram at Snapdragon Official.
Wounded Warrior Project helps post-9/11 veterans and their families realize what's possible. With support and resources that bring warriors together and empower them to become stronger, both inside and out.
It's possible to begin healing.
To get the help you need.
To find peace.
And as each warrior's needs evolve, so do we. Because these last 20 years are just the beginning. Learn more at woundedwarriorproject.org/together.